Hurricane Irma has strengthened into a powerful Category 3 storm, with winds of up to 115 miles per hour, about 1,725 miles from the Leeward Islands in the Caribbean. The NOAA's National Hurricane Center, NHC, predicts that Irma will become an extremely dangerous Category 4 as it approaches the Leeward Islands next week. After that point, it is very difficult to predict where the storm will head because there are vast differences in the long-term weather forecasts. In some models, Irma will go back out to sea. Others show it could either hit the northern Leeward Islands or bypass them and curve towards the USA. Meteorological scientist Dr. Michael Ventricle, at the University of Albany, said on his Twitter page, "It's too early to know where Irma is headed. This storm could still sneak out to sea." One analysis of the hurricane's projected path by Weatherbell Analytics varied from heading towards central Mexico to Irma almost doubling back on itself and heading back out northwards into the Atlantic. Most predictions though have Irma hitting southern Florida and then heading along the eastern coast of the US and Canada, possibly hitting New York and Washington. Fox News meteorologist Janice Dean said, "The models are trending towards perhaps curving away from the US, but added Irma was coming a little too close to comfort for the East Coast." So far no coastal watches or warnings were in effect, but it was too early to determine if it would make landfall or pose a threat to the U.S. Dr. Ventrice has noticed a slight alteration in the movement of Irma, apparently moving away from the Gulf of Mexico and moving more towards the East Coast. But he added, "Things can still change." He also added that it appeared the hurricane was increasing in intensity again, indicating the eye of the hurricane was expanding with a ring of low brightness temperatures around it. In a span of 12 hours on Thursday, Irma rapidly intensified from a tropical storm to a 115 miles per hour Category 3 hurricane. In doing so, it became the season's fourth hurricane and second major Category 3 or stronger hurricane. Julian Hemming, who works on predicting tropical cyclones for the Met Office, said that Hurricane Irma is expected to move in the roughly westward direction for the next few days. He said, "If it has any impact over the Caribbean, it will be the far northern side of the Leeward Islands." The forecast models are showing quite a bit of spread in the longer term. Irma is on track to approach the Leeward Islands by Tuesday or Wednesday, west of where the NHC forecasts it could turn into a Category 4 hurricane. Mr. Hemming said that the models are starting to shift a bit north, suggesting there is an increasing chance that Irma could bypass the islands in the Caribbean. After Hurricane Irma passes or hits the Caribbean, there is an even greater deal of uncertainty over where Hurricane Irma will go next. At this stage, we can't rule out any impact on the US, but if there are any, it will be at least a week before it happens, he said. Mr. Hemming said that it is still quite possible that Hurricane Irma could continue curving right and go back out to sea. "We have to sit patiently and see what happens with the models before we can give a forecast with any great certainty," he added. The Met Office storm track map below should not be taken in isolation because it is only a single solution from the latest run of the global model. Meanwhile, spaghetti models are showing a vast spread at possible tracks because there is so much uncertainty this far in advance. CBS 11 Dallas and Fort Worth's meteorologist Jeff Jameson said that hopefully Hurricane Irma might recurve right back out to the Atlantic. He said, "Here's the good news, if there is any with a storm of that magnitude, 10 to 15% of hurricanes where Irma is and where it formed strike the United States." Irma comes after Hurricane Harvey struck Texas and Louisiana on the Gulf Coast, leading to at least 39 deaths, mass evacuations and terrible flooding. BBC Weather yesterday tweeted, "Hurricane Irma will rapidly strengthen to become a Category 4 hurricane. Landfall possible middle of next week, but uncertain where." The NHC said Irma will turn west by tonight and west-southwestward tomorrow, but there is uncertainty over what happens after the weekend. At 11 a.m. CDT, the hurricane was located about 1,580 miles, 2,540 kilometers, east from the Leeward Islands in the Caribbean. In a discussion statement, NHC forecaster Eric Blake said Irma will turn westward later today and then move west-southwestward through the weekend. He said, "An upper-level low will be dropping southward on the east side of that high, and should be a key feature to how far south Irma goes before eventually turning westward and west-northwestward early next week." He said that a number of weather models, such as the ECMWF, have clusters of possible tracks to the south and others, including the Met Office, have them to the north. He added, since Irma is forecast to be a vertically deep cyclone, it seems more likely to respond to the northerly flow from the upper level low, which leads me to believe the track will be on the southern side of the guidance. In an earlier discussion, NHC forecaster David Zielinski said, for example, the GFS shows a somewhat weaker Irma and a weaker ridge, forcing the hurricane to move slower and make a sharper turn back toward the west-northwest. On the other hand, the ECMWF and HWRF depict a stronger ridge and a stronger hurricane on a more southern track. Meteorologist Danielle Banks, from the Weather Channel, said, keep in mind that it is way too soon to say if it's going to impact the United States, and where it will head.